Gervonta Davis is a man that doesn't disappoint. When you show up for a Gervonta Davis fight, you know you are going to be entertained. When you turn on the TV and Gervonta Davis is fighting, you know you're going to be leaving feeling like you got your money's worth, right? You're going to be leaving feeling as though you want to go back and see what else this man has to offer. You want to know what's next. You want to hear what he has to say because you want to see who he's going to step in the ring with after this. And that's the mark of a good showman. That's the mark of a good entertainer. That's the mark of a man who's good at his craft. You have to keep people coming back to see you perform. And that's exactly what we get each and every time we see Gervonta Davis in the ring. And tonight was no exception. First big fight of the year, January 7th. Who better to kick things off? Tank Davis steps in there against Hector Garcia. Now look, let's be honest with each other. We knew going in what the outcome was going to be. We knew going in what was going to happen. Okay, everybody knew. We stepped into the sports book. If we wanted to lay our money down, they were telling us the odds were approximately minus 1,600. You had to bet $1,600 to win $100 in profit just on Tank. Just betting on him to win. Nothing special, not by knockout, not picking by rounds. Just picking him to win the fight. You were talking about minus 1,600. That is an overwhelming favorite. Pretty obvious at that point what everybody expects to happen. Now, we can debate whether or not that line was legit. Right? Hector Garcia is no bum. It's true he was the smaller man. He was at 130. He's moving up to 135. A lot of reason to believe that he wasn't going to win this fight. But was minus 1,600 a legit line or not? That's not really what I'm saying. Personally, I think that was a little bit inflated, but there's a lot of reasons that go behind that. Nevertheless, we knew that the man was a significant underdog coming in. By the 8th round, it's all said and done. So really not that surprised. In a lot of ways, that's what we expected to see. Right? The question is, how did it look up until that point? Now, the first round, really interesting. Both guys come out. They just do a lot of posing, do a lot of waiting. There was really two things that we picked up from the first round, with both of these guys spending the majority of their time looking at each other, throwing very few punches, landing even less. Number one, Gervonta Davis was the man with the faster hands. He was the more athletic guy. Number two, both of these guys respected each other to the point where they did not want to make a mistake, did not want to run out there and do something stupid. And Gervonta Davis even said so after the fight. After the fight ends, the cameras follow him back into the locker room. And the first thing that he starts saying to the people that are back there in the locker room waiting for him, he was like, man, that guy was trying to set me up. He was tricky. He was trying to do some things. He was trying to catch me. Hector Garcia is no bum. He was in there trying to do the little patented slide back half step, land that counter left hand. He was landing some good jabs. He was landing some clean shots here and there. He kept Tank honest, kept him fighting behind that high guard, kept him on his game. Now look, by the time the 4th round comes around, we see Gervonta start to open up. We see him start to be the aggressor. We see him start to press the action. And make no mistake about it, Hector Garcia, man, he stood his ground. He fought his game. He was in the pocket. He didn't back up. He didn't try to run. He was in there landing some good shots of his own. But look, Tank was the bigger man at 135. He's already a tremendous puncher at that weight. He's got incredibly fast hands. He's skilled. He doesn't just come in there and bully people. He knows what he's doing. He was patient. He was setting things up. He's using a lot of feints. Right, when he gets inside, he's working the uppercut. When he's on the outside, he's going with the overhand left. He's leading with the left. He's shooting it in combinations. One of the things that I love about him is how when he's working these combinations, he'll start up top. He'll work in the shot to the body, and then he'll go back upstairs. It's one thing just to got to start upstairs and finish downstairs, but then to move it back and forth makes it that much more difficult for your opponent to block. That's the exact type of offense that we see from Tank. It's one of the things that makes him a little bit different than everybody else. You layer the power on top of that, that's when you start to get something special. And slowly but surely, he starts to break him down. But look, personally, I didn't agree with the official scorecards. I thought they weren't giving Garcia enough credit. My card was a little bit closer to what we saw from the Showtime analyst. I can't even think of his name right now. I mean, he's the guy who's turning in the cards all the time for Showtime, but it was a little bit closer to that. I thought Garcia was looking good at times, but ultimately, it was about Gervonta Davis, man. As he started to turn the pressure up, as he started to move forward and be more aggressive, as he started to mix in his shots, work a little bit more behind that jab. One of the things I love was we see so much from him. We see how he leads. We see how he counters. We see how he he'll shoot counters that were punching with Garcia. He would jab with him at times. We'd see other times where he would catch and shoot. Just going out there and kind of putting it all on display, continuing to evolve as a fighter. We see now how he's very patient at this point in his career, moving forward slowly but surely, fighting behind that high guard, throwing all those feints, doing what he needs to do, not trying to rush the action, not worried. I mean, he was in there against a home crowd. That's the exact type of time that you see fighters not be patient. You see fighters be worried about looking good or worried about getting an early knockout, particularly if they're an overwhelming favorite. First fight of the year, Showtime pay-per-view. You come out there and you're not looking as good as you initially expected. Like, that's the perfect opportunity to do something silly. You're in there against a counterpuncher, a guy who's got some good timing. And what? Now you're going to rush it? Now you're going to reach? Now you're going to get off balance? Recipe for disaster. But that's not what you see from a professional. That's not what you see from a man who's matured in the sport. That's not what you see from Tank. Not at this point in his career. This isn't the dude who went out there and fought a long time ago, years ago. We're not seeing the same guy who fought against Gamboa. But as much as we talk about this fight, we really know what it was all about. We really know that this fight was just a tune-up and that everything that we were building up to is about him and Ryan Garcia in April. That's what it's all about, which, by the way, makes this one a little bit more interesting because the man has no similarities to the style that Ryan Garcia has. He doesn't even fight at the same stance, right? Nevertheless, we're talking about Gervonta Davis fighting Ryan Garcia in April. And I'll be honest, this fight just confirms what I already thought. This fight just continues to reinforce where I was already going with my thinking. And that's that Ryan Garcia does not have what it takes to handle what Tank Davis is going to bring to the table. Look, do we know that Ryan Garcia has a nasty left hook? Of course. We know he's got incredibly fast reflexes. Look, we see him on the Cobra bag. We see him on the double M bag. We see him on these speed bags. We see him doing these punching challenges. Great power. Yes. Great speed. Yes. Good athleticism. Yes. Punches with both hands. Punches in combinations. He can catch guys with counter shots. He's got good timing. He knows how to set things up here and there. Not a master with it. Doesn't use feints nearly enough. Offense isn't as polished and as developed as you'd like. Okay? Overextends a little bit. But he's got some big flaws, particularly when it comes to defense. Look, do I even need to mention the way that he keeps his chin up in the air? I feel like I need to on the one hand because it's so obvious, but yet on the other hand, everybody mentions it. So do I really need to bring it up? The dude's chin is just standing up there waiting to be clobbered. Now look, we saw Luke Campbell hit him. We saw Luke Campbell drop him. Luke Campbell's a southpaw. Gervonta Davis is a southpaw. Oh, by the way, Gervonta Davis, faster hands, way more athleticism. He can close the distance quicker, way more power. Okay, now if we're being honest with each other, we know Ryan Garcia's game has developed a little bit since that fight with Luke Campbell. We've seen it develop since he started working with his new trainer, Joe Goosen. So we know that it's not going to be the same fighter as before. But we also know that he has not corrected those flaws. He may be doing it a little bit here and there. But man, once you get in the heat of battle, once things start going, once you get caught, once everything starts flowing, you're going to go back to what you've trained. That's what you go back to. You regress to the level of your training. Okay, he hasn't been with Joe Goosen long enough for that to be the new habit. He starts to get hurt. He's going to go back to what we've seen him do before. That's a man who's flat-footed. That's a man who leans over his front leg and gets off balance. That's a man who doesn't hold his hands up correctly all the time in the correct position. That's a man who can watch his work at times. He keeps that chin up. Doesn't necessarily have enough of a multi-layered defense. You know, he fights behind the jab, but at the same time, I don't think he knows how to use it defensively enough. Look, if Gervonta Davis comes out and says, look, I'm going to come out and I'm going to start bullying him this round, is Ryan Garcia going to be able to keep the distance with the jab? He's going to be able to fight off the back foot and counter effectively multiple times. Should that left hook start to not get off right away? Look, those are a lot of questions that we got to answer. And personally, I don't think he's going to be able to. So I think when this fight is coming up in April, man, should everything get signed, sealed, and delivered? Should it be exactly like everybody says it's going to be? I think it's going to be a long night at the office for Ryan Garcia, man. I think it's going to be some tough work. I think Tank is continuing to develop, and what we see from him, everybody should be impressed. This is exactly how you'd like to see your man develop. And even though Hector Garcia wasn't some superstar blockbuster name, I get it, man. He kind of comes onto the scene out of nowhere in a lot of ways by getting that big win over Chris Colbert, right? That in and of itself was a big upset. But maybe it wasn't an upset, so to speak. It was an upset to a lot of people because he was the no-namer. He was the one that wasn't known. He was the one who was taking the fight on short notice. But maybe if we'd have had time to really sit down, break down, analyze the styles and everything, we'd have felt a little bit differently about it. Maybe we were underestimating what he brought to the table. Maybe we were overestimating Colbert. Nevertheless, it is what it is. So we're looking at Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia in April. Everything appears to be on track. Ryan Garcia, for reasons that will remain his own, I guess, decided to forego a tune-up fight. Didn't want to stay busy. Didn't want to show himself the progress that he's making under his new trainer for us a little bit more. Didn't want to get another fight under his belt with him. Instead says, hey, I'm ready to dance. I'm ready to show up. Let's do the big fight. I don't think it's going to turn out the way he wants, but man, I'm going to be tuned in to see it. Both men never disappoint. Love a Gervonta Davis fight. So let me know. What did you guys think about this one tonight? Were you surprised with what Hector Garcia brought? Did you pretty much expect that to happen? And were you just impressed with the way Gervonta Davis broke him down as the fight went on, landed his power shots, eventually started to crank up the aggression more and more and get things off? Did you think he was going to do a little bit sooner? Man, that shot he landed at the end was ferocious. Dude's talking about, I can't see. He's looking at his corner. He's like, no, you don't get it. I can't see. I'm not going back out there. My eye doesn't work the way it's supposed to. I'm supposed to be able to see these shots coming. My right eye isn't working. It's like somebody's got his hand over it or something. I can't go out there against this murderous puncher if my eye's not working. Stop the fight. That's eventually what this came to. So let me know what you guys think.